What was there before cities, before kings, before even words? Because there was a time when no one wrote, no one ruled, and the world didn't have a history yet. Until something changed forever. And that change happened between two rivers. And if we want to understand who we are today, we have to start at the very beginning.
Mesopotamia, Part 1. If any one of us living today wanted to find out about our lives, we could start by looking back at our life stories. Once upon a time, there was a very small boy. And from there, we could learn about our lives. But to really know who we are, we need to know where we came from. So perhaps we should start with the stories of our parents. Once upon a time, there were my parents. This would provide a little more information about who our parents were and where they came from. But to really know the stories of our parents, we'd have to learn about our grandparents. But where were our grandparents born? They were small once too. So really the story should be about our great-grandparents, or great-great-grandparents, or great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. Once upon a time, at the beginning of history. Okay, so let's really start at the beginning. About 9,000 years ago, people were just starting to emerge from living in caves. They began building homes. They learned how to plant crops, harvest food, raise livestock. And they formed the first towns and cities. So, once upon a time, civilization was born. The story begins in a place surrounded by two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. A wide, flat area in the shape of a large half-moon with fertile land, a comfortable climate, and lots of fresh water coming down from the mountains. This place was called Mesopotamia, which in Greek means the land between two rivers. Today, these two rivers can be found flowing through the countries of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, and emptying into the Persian Gulf.
Think about it for a second. If you'd lived back then, would you have preferred to keep traveling as a nomad, or would you have preferred to stay and build a city from scratch? I'll read your thoughts in the comments.
From nomads to settlers. A group of nomads reached Mesopotamia around 6000 BC. And there they learned to plant seeds and harvest crops. Since they no longer needed to go out in search of food, they settled into houses, thus forming the first settlements in history.
But what will we eat, Mommy? We'll grow our food, dear.
Thanks to farming and raising livestock, these people stopped being nomads, which means people always moving in search of food. Instead, they stayed in one place all year round. This is called sedentism. The settled life benefited these peoples in other ways too. They began dividing up work and creating new and different goods. This is how the first trades began, such as builder, baker, shoemaker, and farmer, amongst many others. And there were also those who dedicated themselves to governing and protecting their people. In other words, soldiers and rulers. This new structure gave people more time to pray, and so they constructed the first temples, and the first priests came into being. News of the successful settlements in Mesopotamia was spread far and wide, and other people came from different regions to settle the land. The most important of these settlers were the Sumerians. Between the years 4000 and 2400 BC, the Sumerians built various cities, such as Uruk, Ur, Amma, Nippur, and Lagash. The Sumerians also invented the first form of writing. Because of this, today we consider the Sumerians to be the oldest civilization in the world. The driving force of history. Okay, now we have some fertile land, farming of crops and livestock, cities, a government, an army, and priests. Wow! So with all this, we can say we have a society here. So is that it? Is that all there is to having a society? No. There were lots of things still to discover. You see, now that the Sumerians had perfected the techniques of stock breeding and farming, it wasn't long before they were producing more food than they needed. With all that food, the people had time to work on other things, like creating other goods. But soon they had more than they needed of that. So what did they do with all they had that was left over? They began to sell it to other peoples, in exchange for money or other products that they didn't have. This became the principle of trade. Also, the Sumerians were the first people to use the wheel for transportation. This helped them to reach very distant lands with heavy loads of merchandise. The traders needed to count everything that they bought and sold, which is how the first forms of math were developed. The Sumerians counted using the phalanges of the fingers. Let's see how. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's right. Each time one hand was completed, a finger on the other hand was raised. A Sumerian could count up to 60 with his hands. This form of counting was called the sexagesimal system, and even though thousands of years have passed, we still use it today. For instance, we divide the hour into 60 minutes, a minute into 60 seconds, and the year into 12 months.
Did you know that when you check the time, you're using a system invented thousands of years ago? If you didn't know that, give us a big thumbs up. And tell me, what else that we use today do you think comes from ancient times?
The development of trade created a lot of wealth, and the accumulation of this wealth created a lot of power.
But all that progress came at a price. Because when wealth appears, something much more dangerous also appears: ambition. What do you think happens when one people has what others want?
I'm not gonna trade for this money. I'm just gonna take it.
And so, through conquests, empires, and wars, Mesopotamia became the heart of the ancient world. But the most incredible thing hadn't happened yet, because in these lands, humans did something that would change everything forever: writing. They also looked to the sky, seeking answers in the stars. They built legendary cities like Babylon, and created the story of the first great hero of all time, Gilgamesh. But that's another story. And it continues in part 2. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe now, because the best is yet to be written. Everything is amazing when you have the desire to learn.